Here we're going to do the Crosman 2240 pistol. We're going to tune it and strip it down and go over how to use it. Right, so this is the Crosman pistol. The valve body in these is the same on all the Crosman 2240, 2250 and the 2260 rabbit stopper. The valve body inside is the same. The valve body inside looks like that, with the transfer port facing upwards and the gas bottles in there on that seal. It's best not to leave the gas bottle in there for more than a day, or what you'll find is the gas bottle will stick to this and you won't be able to get the gas bottle out. I made a tool that would actually pull the gas bottle out, and because that seal's only held in by that crimp, it pulled the seal out as well. So the best thing is to lubricate it slightly when you put the gas bottle in, but don't leave it in for more than a day. Just use the gas up as the best way to do it. So to take it apart, need to undo these two screws to remove the trigger unit. When you take this off, be careful that you don't lose the little safety spring and ball. It's very small. Right, to remove the back end, get one of these angled Phillips, and you can get it in there better, and hold it down and unscrew it that way. Be careful as we take this off. There's the little ball, and that falls out of there. There's a little hole there, and that's where that ball goes when you put it back together. It's best to put it back with a little bit of grease to stop it falling around like that. And put the trigger unit to one side. Now we'll undo the back, take this spring and ball and put it by the magnet. We're going to undo the rear screw which holds the back end in. I'm holding the back in because there's a spring in there going against the hammer. So we take that off. Then this comes out like that. There's the spring. And now we can get access to the little, these used to be 50 thou, but on this later one it's actually 1.5 mil. But this is the very latest model. So it's 1.5 mil on this one, but usually they're normally 50 thou. Because they're American, they're Imperials. Be careful you don't round this off, otherwise it'll be hard to get out.
You do know you ain't got a microphone.
Yeah, I know. It's got its own mic. And with a 2 mil Allen key, you can undo the front one on this A-frame. They're a bit stiff because they tend to put a locking compound on it. Once that's loose, you pull the transfer port out, which is now plastic. They used to be metal. Take the barrel, slide the barrel out the front with the A-frame. We're going to undo the front cap. And you put a CO2 bottle in nose first when you're actually going to use the gun. So we now take out the transfer port seal, which is here. See, the transfer port's got a very small hole. Well, this pin moves to the back and you can pull it out, a little pin, so the long bit goes upwards like that, and then the hammer will fall out. Now, to remove the valve body and valve, you have to undo this screw, take that out, and then the valve body will just slide out like that. And to take this apart, you need a collet to put on the front to grip it. To undo this, these are sometimes Loctited, so they can be hard to undo, but if you put a bit of heat on them, you can use a kettle where the kettle's boiling, let the steam go on this to heat it up, and by using the steam from a kettle you're not going to overheat it and melt all the seals. So you push the collet on like this, get it on near the split where it splits, so you just see the crack there where it's going to break. Then get some mould grips without being too tight. Back it off so you're not going to grip it too tight, and lock it there. And then with the other tool that we make to remove this end, you put that in there and undo it. Right, once it's loose, you can do the mould grips. Remove the collet, and unscrew it. That's the return valve spring, and here is the exhaust valve. There's the seal. As you can see, these are pressed over, so they're not easy to change, but you can use a pick set and pick it out. If you do use a pick set to remove this, get an oil stone and take the sharp edge off, because you don't want to scratch the back of this, otherwise you might cause a leak around the back of it. If we do these so that you can unscrew this and replace the seals easily. And it's the same as the front. The front is rolled over and it is just held in by that rolled over thread, but on our one we did do one that you can unscrew, but you can change it as long as you don't use a sharp pick. Take the sharp edge off so you don't scratch it. Now, to tune it, you can drill this a bit deeper, 6.5mm by about 6.5mm deep, and then you can remove part of this thread, which we're going to do later. Remove part of this thread when we tune them, and that gives you more travel on the exhaust valve, because you can see that when you fire this can only go that far and it's going to stop by the threads. It can't go in there anymore. But if we increase that by 5mm, by removing 5mm, we can increase the travel of this valve by 5mm and let more of this increased volume out, because we've increased the volume by drilling it 6.5mm by 6, but we've also removed part of this thread, which will increase the volume. And if you look at the later ones, like this, the seal is clear, whereas on the older ones it was that red colour. We do the seal set if you need them. To give you an idea of what it's like inside, I've got one of our stainless steel ones that we make where you can replace the seals, but I've cut it away so you can see what it would be like inside. And as you can see on our one here, I've done it so that the valve seat there, that pointed bit, is more pointed than the standard one, because on this one they're generally rounded. If that's in there, probably might not show with a light. This is so you can see how the valve unit works and the valve. So I'll put that in there. You can see that the valve goes to the bottom, and that's held in there by the spring. There's the return spring, so that's held in there. So when you fire it, that hammer will knock that off the seat and allow the gas to come out the transfer port and fire the pellet. This is one of my valves compared to the standard valve, which doesn't come apart. This doesn't unscrew, but on my one this will unscrew, and the best way to hold these is in a drill chuck. So you can hold it tight with that, then you can unscrew it. Then you can take the piercer out if you want to. But while we've got this apart, I'll just show you the king rat catcher, because the king rat catcher doesn't have a spike on it and it doesn't have a hole through it, it's blanked off. So this is the one for a king rat catcher. It's basically the same, but it doesn't have the spike, and that one won't work in a king rat because of the spike, and also the air would leak through the middle. So this is the king rat. I'll put it back together. Of course you can change the seal, just grip that tight, and there's the valve seal. When you put the valve seal in, there's a shiny side and a matte side. So the smooth shiny side is facing the valve seat. So to put them together, put the valve seal on first, put the piercer in, and then do it up. As you do it up, make sure the valve seal goes into the valve head, and then, but don't over tighten them, just do it up firm, and that's it done. You'll notice on mine as well, it's got this slight taper here to allow even more airflow. If you want to look at the trigger, you take the right hand grip off, one of the things they've changed with this later gun is they've made this shorter. It used to go right to the back, but now they've changed it so it's shorter. Now we'll take the other grip off as well, but this side you don't see that much. Take this grip off. Now on this side you've got this plate that's holding the trigger safety catch and the spring guide, and there's no follower on these, they just have the spring resting on the bottom of the sear. I'll take that off and show you. Looks like they've changed these to metric because it's 2mm Allen key fits it. On the older ones it'll be imperial. Remember which way round the safety comes out, so you can put it back the same way. Now this will come off. That comes off like that. Here's the sear. The sear is resting in now with a spring underneath it. Like that. So you can see that when you pull the trigger, it pulls it down and lets the hammer fly forward. The new hammers look like that, and on the older guns it looks like that. It's much the same weight, it's counterboard the same depth. If you want to improve the trigger, you can polish these faces. As you can see, it's just stamped out and the stamp shield is still showing on there. It's rough. So you can polish that out. Safety catch goes that way with a red facing to the left hand side. Trigger comes off like that. If it's my own gun, I normally put some Loctite on these pins to keep them in place, so the pins will stay in the hole. You can see there's a little sprung washer there to keep the side plate in control. We're going to put the trigger unit back together. Make sure the sprung washer's on that pin first, and put that down like that. And put the sear on. Trigger unit together, put the pin in the hole with a sprung washer over it, and put the sear pin back, and then put the trigger back in there like that, and then put the sear on the pin. Pull that down. While you're holding it all together, put the side plate on. You've got to line the pins up. So move the pins around to line it up. And then put the screws back. Put the bottom one in first. Start it off. Put the safety catch in with the red side going to the left and with the slot facing downwards. Make sure that works, then put the other screw back in. So just do the front one up a little bit. Once you've got them all done up, you just go over them each one at a time a little bit of time till it's nice and tough, firm. Don't over tighten them. And at the end you want to check the safety catch still moves side to side and it's still working. So when it's over like that, you can't pull the trigger. Push it over and you can. That shows it's got the groove in the right place. To put the spring on ball back, you need to put the ball in first, put a bit of grease in the hole first to stop it pinging out. And then put the spring in. Push it to the bottom. Then put another little bit of grease on top of that to keep it there. You could also grease the back of this to make it a little bit smoother. And feel that the safety catch works with the ball clicking. Now I put the grip strap on. Do the grip up. Don't over tighten because you're only going through the plastic. And the other side. Right, so that's the trigger put back together. So now we've tuned the valve body and the valve with our parts, we'll put it back. Right, this is the bottom. We've got a new modified valve body. We push that in to line it up. Rotate it round to line it up with a transfer port. Is there. Then turn it over and put your screw back in. Right, line it up and put the screw in. That small screw is all what's holding it in, so you can't convert these to old high pressure air or you'd shear that screw. Just snip that up and put it over the other way. We put the hammer in. Make sure that the transfer port's lined up before you tighten the screw up, which it's lined up pretty good. Put the pin in with the long bit facing upwards. Then put the transfer port seal in. And the transfer port goes in with a short end. You can see one end's longer than the other. The long end faces upwards into the barrel. Right, so put the A-frame on, move it to the front, and then put the housing on like that, and with the transfer port facing upwards, Move that forward so it lines up. You've got to be able to go together. You put the front in the A-frame part, then line it up, then hold it together, making sure the barrel locates with the transfer port. Then holding it together, put the little screw back in. You don't do this up too tight because it's a very small 1.5mm Allen key on this. Don't forget the older ones will be 50 thou and they won't fit. Now make sure that all works together with a hammer and the barrel is locked in. And when you do this one up, line it up, make sure it's dead in line, because as we said, this one from the factory was a little bit over to one side. So make sure it's dead in line when you do up the small screw underneath, like that. Look at the top again, making sure it's lined up. As you can see, it can easily move from side to side. Check where the dimple's there, so you've got to come in line with that and lock that in there. And then the bottom. Again, check the top again, make sure it's lined up. That looks okay. And then lock it there. As we said, the one from the factory was a little bit one-sided. Just a little nip there and a little nip here. We'll put the hammer spring in. The rear cap. The back side. Push that in. Line it up with a hole. Use a small one just to start it. You've got it nearly there. Look at it and make sure it's in the middle, because you've got slight adjustment from right to left on this. You can move it this way or that way a little bit on that elongated hole. That looks to be about the middle on this one. I'll just nip it up there. And we'll turn it over to put the trigger unit back. I'll turn it upside down because the grease is holding that little spring and ball in. Line up the front hole. Start it off. Won't do it up too tight yet. And we'll put the back one in. And when you come to put it back together, you can start it off and then do it up with an angled Phillips like this, but don't over tighten it. Just get it firm And that's it done. Check for function, cocks, safety catch off, and it'll fire. Cock, push the safety on, and it won't fire. So that's proof that's okay. Pull the trigger and cock it. Then we put the front end in, and it's ready to go. And on these new ones, they've threaded the front cap. That way it's universal for the rat catcher and a rabbit stopper. That does anything. So that's that. Check it now on a chronograph to make sure it do not exceed the legal limit of your country. In Britain it's 6 foot-pounds for a pistol and 12 for a rifle.